Welcome to Vibe Audiobook. In just a few minutes, you will get the key ideas and the most valuable practical knowledge, also the most valuable insight in today's book. If you like to grow faster and smarter, you are in the right place. So let's get started.
Welcome to this comprehensive audio exploration of Don Miguel Ruiz's modern classic, The Four Agreements, a practical guide to personal freedom. If you take a moment to look around at modern society, or even look inward at the daily chatter of your own mind, you will likely notice a persistent undercurrent of anxiety, judgment, and emotional suffering. We often find ourselves trapped in cycles of self-criticism, worrying about what others think of us, or reacting with anger and hurt to the casual remarks of strangers, colleagues, or loved ones. It feels like an inevitable part of being human. But what if this suffering isn't a natural state at all? What if the emotional pain we experience is actually the result of a collective illusion, a set of invisible rules we never chose to follow, yet agreed to live by anyway? This is the profound, foundational premise that Toltec shaman and author Don Miguel Ruiz presents to us. Ruiz reveals that from the moment we are born, we enter into a deeply ingrained social contract. He calls this process the domestication of humans. Just as we domesticate dogs, horses, or cats through a system of rewards and punishments, society domesticates us. Think back to your early childhood. As a brand new human being, you had no concept of right or wrong, success or failure, beauty or ugliness. You simply existed in a state of pure, unadulterated joy, expressing your true nature without fear. But very quickly the adults around you, your parents, teachers, religious leaders, and the culture at large, began teaching you how to live in the dream of the planet. When you did what the adults wanted, you were rewarded with praise, attention, and affection. When you broke their rules, you were punished, scolded, or rejected. Because the fear of being rejected or left behind is one of our deepest human vulnerabilities, we quickly learned to adapt. We started pretending to be someone we weren't, just to please others and to receive the reward of their approval. Over time, something insidious happened. We internalized these external rules. We no longer needed a parent or a teacher to punish us when we made a mistake. We became our own inner judge. We developed an inner victim that accepts the punishment, wallows in guilt, and tells us we are never good enough, smart enough, or attractive enough. Ruiz calls this inner mental noise the mitote, a Toltec term for a chaotic market where 1,000 voices are all shouting at once, making it impossible to see who we truly are. We are living in a fog, a dream where our personal freedom has been entirely traded for social acceptance. Don Miguel Ruiz comes from a long lineage of Toltec healers and shamans in Mexico. For centuries, the Toltec were known throughout southern Mexico as men and women of knowledge. Their teachings are not a religion. Rather, they form a practical spiritual philosophy focused on unlocking the human spirit and reclaiming our personal power. Ruiz himself began life as a modern medical doctor and surgeon, but after a near-fatal car accident, he experienced a profound awakening that led him back to his ancestral roots to study the ancient wisdom of his people. The ultimate goal of this audio journey is to provide you with an entry point toward breaking free from that collective fog. We are going to deconstruct the four powerful, deceptively simple agreements that Ruiz outlines to shatter our old, self-limiting belief systems. In this summary, we will break down each agreement deeply, exploring the philosophical why behind them, analyzing how they manifest in daily life, and providing the concrete psychological tools required to replace a lifetime of negative domestication with absolute personal freedom, love, and joy. Part 2. The Core Concepts, Deconstructing the Four Agreements. To change our lives, we must first recognize that our entire reality is governed by the agreements we have made with ourselves and the world. If you want to live a life of freedom, you have to break the thousands of smaller, fear-based agreements that drain your energy and replace them with four foundational, warrior-level commitments. Let us dive into each one deeply. The first agreement: be impeccable with your word. The first agreement is the most important one and also the most difficult to honor. It is the bedrock upon which all other agreements rest. Don Miguel Ruiz states it clearly: be impeccable with your word. To understand why this is so revolutionary, we have to look closely at what the word actually is. The word is not just a combination of sounds or symbols on a page. It is a force. It is the tool through which you manifest everything in your reality. Regardless of what language you speak, your word is the direct expression of your creative power. It is a double-edged sword. It can create the most beautiful dream, or it can destroy everything around you. Ruiz uses a striking analogy to describe the power of the word. He compares the human mind to a highly fertile piece of land. Every word you speak, every thought you entertain, is a seed. If you plant a seed of love, encouragement, and truth, a beautiful garden grows. But if you plant seeds of fear, judgment, and hatred, you will soon find yourself living in a forest of thorns. The word impeccable comes from the Latin roots im, meaning without, and peccatum, meaning sin. Therefore, being impeccable literally means without sin. But Ruiz defines sin in a very practical, non-religious way. A sin is anything you do or say that goes against yourself. When you judge yourself, blame yourself, or use your mind to self-sabotage, you are sinning against yourself. Being impeccable with your word means using your energy in the direction of truth and love for yourself and others. To see the devastating impact of a word that is not impeccable, let's look at a story Ruiz shares in the book. Imagine a mother who comes home after a grueling, exhausting day at the office. She has a terrible headache and is completely spent. Her young daughter, completely unaware of her mother's condition, is jumping around the living room, singing at the top of her lungs, overflowing with joy and creativity. The loudness of the singing intensifies the mother's headache until, in a sudden flash of uncontrolled anger, she snaps at her daughter. "Shut up. You have an ugly voice. Just sit down and be quiet." In reality, the daughter doesn't have an ugly voice. The mother simply couldn't tolerate the noise in that specific moment. But the young child makes a silent agreement based on those words. She believes her mother completely. She tells herself, "My voice is ugly. If I sing, I annoy people I love." As a result, she stops singing. She grows up shy, holding back her natural self-expression, terrified of speaking up in public, all because of a single seed planted in a moment of emotional carelessness. This brings us to the dark side of the word, black magic. Ruiz explains that gossip is the worst form of black magic because it is pure emotional poison. When we gossip, we pass our negative opinions, biases, and judgments to others, infecting their minds with our own unresolved issues. Think about how often this happens in modern workplaces or friend groups. Someone expresses a negative opinion about a new manager. Watch out for him, he's manipulative and vindictive. Even if you have never met this manager, that seed is now planted in your mind. The next time you interact with him, you view his actions through that specific filter. If he asks a neutral question, you interpret it as manipulative. You have been hooked by someone else's word, and you are now actively participating in their illusion. Being impeccable with your word requires an immense amount of mindfulness. It means halting the internal critique that says, "I'm so stupid for making that mistake," and replacing it with, "I made a mistake and I am learning from it." It means refusing to participate in gossip, choosing instead to use your words to spread truth, validate others, and cultivate freedom. When you become impeccable with your word, your mind clears, and the emotional poison begins to drain away from your life. The second agreement: don't take anything personally. The second agreement flows naturally from the first, and it is a powerful shield against emotional suffering. Don't take anything personally. Whatever happens around you, never take it personally. This sounds simple, but it requires a massive shift in how we view our position in the universe. Most of us suffer from a psychological condition that Ruiz calls personal importance, which is the ultimate expression of selfishness. Personal importance is the belief that everything revolves around us, that other people's choices, moods, and actions are a direct reaction to who we are. But here is the absolute truth. Nothing other people do is because of you. It is because of themselves. Every single human being is living in their own dream inside their own mind. They are operating based on their own domestication, their own past traumas, and the agreements they have made with themselves. When someone insults you, cuts you off in traffic, or treats you unfairly, they are not reacting to the real you. They are reacting to an image they have created of you in their own mind, a character in their movie. Let's illustrate this with a practical example. Imagine you are walking down a busy city street and a total stranger walks up to you, looks you dead in the eye, and says, "Wow, you are an absolutely disgusting, pathetic person." If you take that statement personally, your mind instantly goes into defense mode. You think, "How dare they say that? Do I look bad today? What is wrong with me?" Your energy drops, you get angry, and you carry that hurt with you for the rest of the week. By taking it personally, you have accepted their emotional poison. You have agreed with it. But if you don't take it personally, you realize that this stranger doesn't know you at all. Their statement has 100% to do with their own mental state, their own madness, or a terrible day they are having. It has 0% to do with you. You can look at them with compassion and simply walk away completely untouched. The exact same rule applies when people praise you. If someone tells you, "You are the most brilliant, wonderful person I have ever met," you cannot take that personally either. If you rely on their praise to feel good about yourself, You will inevitably fall apart when they change their mind and tell you that you are terrible. You do not need anyone else's validation to know who you are. When you take things personally, you become an easy target for predators who want to hook you with their words. You become offended easily, and your typical response is to defend your beliefs, create conflict, and prove that you are right. You make a big drama out of a tiny thing because you feel a desperate need to defend your personal importance. Think of how much freedom you gain when you master this agreement. If someone gets angry with you, you know they are dealing with their own anger. If someone lies to you, they are lying because they are afraid you will discover they aren't perfect. Their lies are an expression of their fear, not a reflection of your worth. By refusing to take things personally, you develop an immense emotional resilience. You can travel through the middle of hell, walk among people who actively dislike you, or navigate chaotic environments, and your internal peace remains completely undisturbed. You no longer live in fear of rejection, and you no longer feel the heavy burden of needing to fix or change anyone else's opinion of you. The third agreement: don't make assumptions. The third agreement deals with one of the most destructive habits of the human mind. Don't make assumptions. We have a powerful, almost compulsive tendency to make assumptions about everything. Because our minds hate uncertainty, whenever we don't understand something, we fill in the blanks by inventing a story. We assume we know what other people are thinking, why they did what they did, and what their hidden motives are. Then, and this is where the real tragedy happens, we believe our assumptions are the absolute truth. We react to our own imagined stories as if they are reality, blaming others and sending emotional poison their way. Ruiz explains that the main reason we make assumptions is that we are afraid to ask for clarification. We are terrified that asking questions will make us look foolish, vulnerable, or weak. We also mistakenly assume that everyone else sees, thinks, feels, and judges life exactly the way we do. We think, if I would do that in that situation, then they must be doing it for the same reason. This dynamic creates an enormous amount of drama, especially in our romantic and family relationships. Let's look at a classic relationship scenario that plays out every single day. A husband and wife are at home. The wife notices that her husband comes through the door looking quiet, tense, and distant. He doesn't greet her with his usual warmth. Instantly, the wife's mind makes an assumption. He's angry with me. I must have done something wrong. Or maybe he's losing interest in our marriage. Is he seeing someone else? She doesn't ask him directly because she is afraid of the answer. Instead, she creates an elaborate mental script. Based on her assumption, her inner victim takes over, and she switches to defense mode. She starts acting cold and passive-aggressive toward him. Meanwhile, the husband is actually completely exhausted because his business is facing a sudden financial crisis, and he is trying to figure out how to pay his employees. He isn't thinking about his wife's behavior at all. He's wrapped up in his own worries. But when he notices her sudden coldness and snappy attitude, he makes an assumption. She doesn't care about how tired I am. She's always judging me. Now both partners are reacting to completely fabricated illusions. A massive, destructive argument erupts out of nowhere, leaving both of them hurt and disconnected, all because neither of them had the courage to just communicate clearly. We also make deep, painful assumptions about ourselves. We assume we can't handle a new challenge, so we don't even try. Or we assume we can change someone else if we just love them enough. We enter into marriages assuming our partner will eventually stop a habit we dislike, or change their core values over time. When they don't, we blame them for breaking an agreement they never actually signed up for. The antidote to making assumptions is simple, yet it requires conscious bravery. Find the courage to ask questions. If you don't understand something, ask. If your friend stops texting you back, don't assume they are mad at you. Call them and check in. If your boss gives you a strange look during a presentation, don't assume you are about to be fired. Schedule a quick 5-minute feedback session to see how you can improve. Ensure your communication is completely clear from day one. If you don't know the truth, say, "I don't know," instead of building a castle of cards in your mind. The day you stop making assumptions, your communication becomes clean, direct, and completely free of emotional conflict. Your words become impeccable because they are grounded in actual reality, not in the defensive fantasies of your ego. The fourth agreement: always do your best. The final agreement is the one that allows the first three to become deeply rooted habits in your life. It binds them together and turns theory into action. Always do your best. Under any circumstance, simply do your best. No more and no less. But Don Miguel Ruiz introduces a vital nuance that prevents this agreement from turning into another rigid tool for self-punishment. Your best is never going to be the same from one moment to the next. Everything in life is alive, dynamic, and constantly changing. Therefore, your best will vary wildly depending on your health, your emotional state, and your environment. Your best when you wake up refreshed, energized, and healthy on a beautiful morning will look vastly different from your best when you are sick with a fever, exhausted after a 12-hour workday, or dealing with a major life crisis. High energy state, your best equals highly productive, calm, patient. Low energy state, your best equals doing the bare minimum to survive without self-sabotage. If you try to force yourself to perform at your peak high energy level when you are sick or burnt out, you will overexpend your energy, cause physical and emotional exhaustion, and it will take you much longer to recover. You are pushing past your natural limits. On the flip side, if you do less than your best, you open the door wide for your inner judge to take over. You invite guilt, self-reproach, and regret into your mind. You start telling yourself, I should have worked harder, I should have been better. By always doing your best, you completely eliminate self-judgment. If you genuinely did your best in a given moment, even if the outcome was far from perfect, even if you made a mistake, the inner judge has no leverage over you. You can look at your performance and say, I used 100% of the energy and awareness I had available to me at that exact moment. It didn't work out, but I have nothing to regret. Ruiz shares a classic Eastern story to drive home the essence of this final agreement. There was once a man who wanted to transcend his suffering and achieve spiritual enlightenment. He decided to go to a remote Buddhist monastery to find a wise master. He approached the master and asked, Master, if I meditate for 4 hours every single day, how long will it take me to achieve enlightenment? The master looked at him kindly and replied, If you meditate for 4 hours a day, perhaps you will achieve enlightenment in 10 years. The man, wanting to speed up the process, pushed further, Master, what if I double my efforts? What if I meditate for 8 hours every day, sacrificing sleep and comfort? How long will it take then? The master shook his head and said, If you meditate for 8 hours a day, it will take you 20 years. The man was completely confused. Why would it take twice as long if I work twice as hard? The master explained, You are not here to sacrifice your joy or your life. You are here to live, to love, and to be happy. If you force yourself to meditate for 8 hours, you will become exhausted, your mind will wander, you will lose the joy of the practice, and you will be doing it just for the reward. You will not be doing your best, you will be overdriving yourself. This story highlights a crucial distinction. You should do your best because you want to do it, because it brings you alive, not because you are chasing an external reward or trying to escape a punishment. When you do your best simply for the joy of the action itself, you enjoy your life intensely. Action becomes an expression of your freedom. When you commit to the fourth agreement, you realize that you don't need to master the first 3 agreements perfectly overnight. You will occasionally make an assumption. You will occasionally take something personally. You will occasionally use an unkind word toward yourself or someone else. But when that happens, you don't fall into a pit of guilt. Instead, you simply reset and say, Okay, I slipped up. But I am going to do my best in this next moment to honor my agreements. This turns life into an active, unfolding practice rather than an unattainable ideal. Part 3. Actionable Takeaways and Frameworks. Now that we have broken down the profound philosophy behind the 4 agreements, let us translate these concepts into concrete, daily habits and psychological exercises. Knowledge without application is merely a pleasant distraction. To shatter a lifetime of domestication, you must train your mind like a warrior. Here is your practical roadmap for daily implementation. The 4 agreements workflow. 1. The word, pause 3 seconds before speaking. Is it true? Is it kind? 2. The shield, when criticized, repeat internally, this is their dream, not my reality. 3. The inquiry, catch a story forming? Stop and ask, what is the missing context? 4. The compass, adjust expectations to your energy. Forgive the slip-ups, reset immediately. Here are specific exercises you can integrate immediately. 1. The 3-second filter for impeccability of the word. Before you speak, especially when you are emotional, tired, or tempted to join in on a conversation about someone who isn't in the room, implement a strict 3-second pause. Ask yourself 2 clarifying questions. Is what I am about to say completely true? Does this use my energy to build up, or does it inject emotional poison into the world? If it fails either test, choose the power of silence. Additionally, commit to a gossip fast for just 48 hours. Notice how much energy you save when you refuse to absorb or distribute social poison. 2. The internal boundary script for not taking things personally. The next time a colleague criticizes your work aggressively, a family member triggers your insecurity, or someone acts rudely in public, do not strike back. Instead, take a deep breath and repeat this exact phrase silently to yourself. This has nothing to do with me. This is a projection of their own internal world, their own beliefs, and their own wounds. By consciously drawing this line, you stop the emotional poison at your mental gates. You allow them to have their drama without making it your reality. 3. The fact-checking protocol for eliminating assumptions. When you feel a wave of anxiety or resentment building up because you think someone is slighting you, grab a piece of paper and draw 2 columns. In the left column, write down the objective facts, e.g., my manager did not reply to my email for 24 hours. In the right column, write down the assumption your mind is making, e.g., my manager hates my project and is planning to phase me out. Once you see the stark contrast between fact and fiction on paper, look at the right column and ask, how can I safely ask a direct question to clear this up? Then send a polite, clear message to find out the truth. 4. The daily energy audit for always doing your best. Every morning when you wake up, take 60 seconds to check in with your physical and mental health. Rate your current available energy on a scale from 1 to 10. If you are at a 9, your best today means tackling your hardest creative projects and pushing your boundaries. If you are running on a 3 due to lack of sleep or personal stress, consciously adjust your expectations. Realize that your best for today means keeping your communication polite, focusing only on essential tasks, and protecting your peace without guilt. Part 4. Conclusion: Reclaiming the Authentic Self. As we bring this audio exploration to a close, let's take a step back and look at the larger picture Don Miguel Ruiz has painted for us. The 4 agreements are not just a collection of self-help tips designed to make you slightly more productive or a little less stressed. They represent a profound act of internal rebellion. They are a declaration of independence from the false system of rewards, punishments, and social conditioning that has kept your authentic self locked away since early childhood. Think about how much energy it takes to maintain the illusion of who you are supposed to be. It takes an incredible amount of mental effort to constantly manage other people's perceptions, to worry about their judgments, to carry old grudges, and to berate yourself for not being flawless. When you live by the old agreements, you are constantly pouring your vital life force down a drain of fear and anxiety. By adopting these 4 simple commitments, by remaining impeccable with your word, refusing to take things personally, stopping your mind from making wild assumptions, and simply doing your best given your current circumstances, you reclaim that lost energy. You begin to plug the leaks in your psychological foundation. Imagine what your life will look like when you no longer fear rejection. Imagine waking up every single morning with an absolute certainty that whatever anyone says or does around you, your internal peace cannot be touched. Imagine looking in the mirror and feeling a complete, profound acceptance of who you are, recognizing that you are entirely worthy of love exactly as you exist right now. This is not a distant, impossible dream. This is the natural state of personal freedom that belongs to you by birthright. The ancient Toltec spoke of 3 masteries that lead to freedom: the mastery of awareness, waking up to see the dream for what it is; the mastery of transformation, changing our agreements; and the mastery of intent, living from a place of pure unconditional love. This summary is your tool for all 3. As you step away from this audio track and return to your daily routine, remember that the old agreements will not vanish without a fight. They have been reinforced for decades, but you are no longer blind to them. You now possess the tools of a spiritual warrior. Be patient with yourself. Remember the 4th agreement: just do your best, moment by moment, day by day. Every single time you choose clear communication over a dark assumption, every time you choose to let an insult pass you by without a reaction, and every time you use your voice to heal rather than hurt, you are actively writing a brand new script for your life. Thank you for dedicating your time and energy to this audio journey. May you walk forward in truth, clarity, and absolute personal freedom.
Thanks for listening. If you like this kind of audiobook summary, then you can subscribe our channel and hit the bell icon to get the notification. See you in the next video. Bye.